Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. I am Jason Harwood. With me is Jacob Litton. We're going to be going over the Dolphins-Lions preseason game. We're doing this a day later. We got chance to watch the film, watch the All-22 a little bit, see what plays stuck out to us. Lions end up losing 17-24. Not that the result is any consequence. Jacob, I know you were working during the game. You got to catch up with it today. Anything that stuck out to you that was noticeable or surprising from the game?
Besides the number of flags, you mean? Like actual footballer?
They are still picking up the flags at Ford Field. Boys went and did the the run from the field. And I told them to watch out for the flags as before they ran and did the run to the end zone.
That's right. Your family had to go to the game without you because you were under the weather. How'd that go for them?
It was good. It was good. We ended up taking someone else. We were watching a family friend, a younger boy, and he's a big Lions fan, so it was a big thrill for him. I was more worried about Sarah with 3 young boys by herself. So we got her pretty close parking, so she didn't have to worry about, traveling far in Detroit with the kids. But it ended up working well. Obviously, Sarah took them on the field afterwards to run, so she wasn't totally wiped out. Sarah was more annoyed by the people that sat around us. Like a couple of them tried to have conversation with the kids, and the kids were just wanting to watch the game. And so Sarah was just annoyed people watching, she said. And I said, was it because it was a preseason game? She said, yes. She would have been more focused on the game, but she was just annoyed by the people sitting around her.
Well, and these are probably not the people that you normally see in kind of like high five or whatever. These are people they sold tickets to, so they're randos.
I'm really hoping so, based, because it's a new season. So I'm hoping it's, our normal people that sat around us are still there, because they're like the perfect mix of, I see them, every, at the home games. That's the only time I ever see these people. But, you can high five and have short little conversations, but they don't bug you during the game like you're there to watch the game. It's a pretty good section. All right. So what did you notice or anything that was surprising besides the flags at the game?
I don't want to say there's anything necessarily surprising. Without getting into specific players, I'll just say I thought the defensive backs played pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick out a position group, I thought the defensive backs did a really good job in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely in my stock up section on this. I didn't matter who was out there. They're getting pass breakups, which I loved. One thing that I learned from the broadcast is I always said Ian Kennelly, but they pronounce it as Canali or Kennelly. I don't know if you heard that on the broadcast at all. So
they all during the live broadcast, I was at work, obviously, so I was not able to listen to that. And then on the condensed version, I don't know if they just didn't say his name. I did not hear that though.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm saying it wrong or they're saying it wrong. I'm going to assume that I was saying it wrong, but I heard it's Kennelly is how they were pronouncing it. So however you want to pronounce it, he started over Strickland again. This is like the second preseason game in a row. So if you're keeping track of that, and I think that that's pretty noticeable that he played pretty much first half. He's fine. There was a couple times that he was lining up for a hit that the receiver dropped the ball that he couldn't lay the boom. But other than that, I thought Kennelly played pretty good.
Yes. Interesting that he, got the start and got, significant playing time over Strickland, because we're expecting it to be kind of more 50-50, more of a battle. And I think that probably leans that he is on the inside track to a starting spot, right? Or they're at least getting a really good look.
Yeah, not a starting spot, but just a
roster spot.
Get on the 53 instead of the practice squad.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it. I mean, when we start having to get our 53s together, that's going to give me pause for thought. Is he going to be on that?
Jeremy had posted the Lions pronunciation guide, so I was just trying to look to see if Kennelly was on there, and he is not.
Okay.
So I don't know.
All right. Well, that was one of the surprising things I learned is the pronunciation of his name. We were on the UK Lions podcast on Friday for their charity event, and Matt, the host, was pronouncing it Kennelly or Canale or Canelli. And I was like, is it just like his accent? And then I was like, should I tell him? And then I listened to the broadcast. I'm like, I'm the one that's wrong. Okay.
Nice.
Brits.
Yeah, right.
Anything else that was surprising or noticeable before we get to stock up, stock down?
No, let's get to it.
All right, stock up. I got a few players listed in here. I'll let you start though.
Are you going to make me start with the obvious one, or should I,
No, you start with whoever you want.
I think it's necessary to start with the obvious one, which is Kyle Allen.
Mm-hmm.
The stock's up even higher than it was before. Once again, he played a great game. Hendon did not. So, it just makes the difference between them so much higher. He was 14 to 17. Those 3 incompletions, every single one of them could have been caught by the receiver. Maybe, a foot, a little bit off. They weren't exactly right on target. They were all catchable balls. So he could have had a perfect game.
Yeah. The first one to Tesla was a little bit out of his reach. I would have loved to see him come down with that catch, though, because that would have been a great catch. I'm okay with that kind of miss because it's within the receiver's grasp, and it's not like it's flying over his head and there's a safety waiting right there, right? He was able to knock it down and out of harm's way. So I'm okay with that. The things that Kyle Allen that were disappointing were the delay of game penalty, which that's you don't want them to be, you don't want the quarterback to be doing that.
It looked like he tried to call timeout. Did he not?
I watched it over and it looks like he notices it too late and couldn't even get his hands together. But generally, like if he would have did the timeout motion, if it's like right at the same time, they would have given the timeout. Maybe he was worried in the first quarter not to burn a timeout like that. They were already 3rd and 10, and he's kind of thinking maybe this is a burned, Burns set it down anyways. I would have liked to have some more awareness and get the ball out there because they lined up like 5 seconds before, before the clock. If you remember, that was right after the holding penalty where Craig Reynolds went like 30 yards.
Oh,
and TJ Lang even says on the broadcast that, he was surprised they didn't reset the clock. So I think it just took a while for everybody to get back in the huddle, and that's probably what have that. The worst penalty was him throwing it over the line. Like he was a full yard past the line of scrimmage and he threw that. That stinks. That looked like a first down for, Tesla made a really nice catch going towards the sideline. Looked good, but then you could see it live. Like when I was watching, I was like, he's a full yard past it. Because sometimes, like if you're dragging your other foot, you could be past the line of scrimmage. Just some part of your body's got to be, behind the line of scrimmage, but it wasn't even close. So the misses I could forgive. That being that unaware of the, kind of reminds me of like in that Hall of Fame game where he slid like a full yard before the stick on that 3rd down. It's like having some sort of awareness. Minor nitpicks compared to what's Hendon Hooker's doing, but Kyle Allen.
It was nice for him to escape the pocket. He escaped the pocket. He bought himself some more time and then found a man downfield. Just happened to be a couple yards probably too far.
Exactly. Well, the thing is that I like Kyle Allen will get out of that trouble, but his eyes are still down the field. Whereas if you look with Hendon Hooker, when he gets out, like his eyes just go down, and he's a runner. Like he's not even looking down the field, and that's concerning for me.
Yes.
All right. I'll go with another obvious stock up, Jackson Meeks. He had another fine game. Out repped. Love it. Lovett is come back from injury, so we don't know if, I'm assuming the injury had a lot to it, that they weren't going to put a lot on Lovett's plate. But Jackson Meeks is doing what he should be doing, taking full advantage of the opportunities given, and he's given his best shot for either making this roster or making someone else's roster. If we can't get him on, our 53, they might scoop him up. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't think Tim Patrick has any way of not making this roster unless like this injury. I don't think this injury is serious because he's been out for about a week. But not only has he been injured, he's been dragging behind, and your 2 ex receivers, Jackson Meeks and Tesla, are both playing really, really well. So yeah, Jackson Meeks looked good. He's had some drops, but he's making some big time catches and getting first downs on like 3rd down plays. And
yeah, absolutely. he was somebody else I had in here. He had great impact catches on both of the 2-minute drills. So the one at the end of the half with Kyle Allen, but also the one with Hendon Hooker at the end of the game. Reliable target. They were able to find him, move the ball. I know his touchdown, it was like a miscommunication from Miami. He was wide open.
Yeah.
But I mean, that one, I think it was like a 20, 30-yard gain or something with Kyle Allen on that 2-minute drill. Just split the seam. That was a nice play. Hit him in
Very
stride.
nice
So, yes, absolutely. You're right. He's making the most of his opportunity. That's going to be, a tough decision for the Lions. Do they keep Meeks? Do they keep Levitt? Do they keep both? Because it's definitely looking like if they let go of Meeks, I don't know that he's going to be able to come back to the practice squad. I think he's put enough out there that somebody else might give him a chance.
Yep, I agree. So it's fine. Who else you got for stock up there, Jacob?
Stock up, Al-Quadin Muhammad. Somebody else that I think last week we had said, I'm pretty sure solidified his roster spot. I don't think that's in danger anymore. But, it was early on in the game. He was kind of late to see a sweep play. He wasn't able to get outside, kind of, lost the edge a little bit there. But then he saves a touchdown on that screen pass. He never gave up. He's chasing down the receiver and then, just crashing down in the pocket, doing what he's supposed to be doing. I think just solidifying his roster spot even more.
Yeah, he's played ball to get there. And then the fact that Hassanin got injured and he might be down for a while might have helped Muhammad, solidify his spot because they weren't going to let Hassanin go. I mean, he might be inactive on game day just because he's so young and they need to develop him a little more. But Muhammad might be able to take advantage of Hassanin being down for a little bit. My next stock up is Sione Vaki. Number one, stock up just for him getting on the field, right? He hasn't done anything yet. He had some pretty nice runs. Some of them he'd get 1 or 2 yards, but he was able to get some bursts through the hole. But the thing is that you notice him is special teams, and he caused that fumble on that very first punt. And that's like a textbook tackle. His helmet's like right on the ball. It's just a shame they couldn't come up with the ball. Then people would remember that a little bit more. But he's a special teams player. He's awesome. So I was happy to see Vaki out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to just see him out there, and then for him to actually have a decent game like that was nice too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got anything else for stock up?
2 more players. I don't have a whole lot of notes on both of them, but Isaac Ukwu, he had the huge sack on 4th down. He was also, it just seemed like he was quicker off the ball in this game. He crashed down. He was in the backfield several times. He also had, I think it was like a 2nd or 3rd and 1, where he kind of crashed in, beat the guard right away, and then stops the run in the backfield. I don't know for sure which one of these. I know he had a sack that was called back with the number of flags. I don't know how many of these really stood, but I think that he had an impressive game. He had a really good game, and he, obviously is on the roster fringe, probably on the outside looking in. He needs more stuff like this to, get a longer look from the team.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will say we kind of mentioned this in the beginning segment, secondary in general. They kind of had some weird rotation. Like they started out with Whiteside, and then they went away and they like got some of the other guys like Gibson and some of the other, backup cornerbacks. And then they went back to Whiteside and Hallett at the end of the game. And they both had some pass breakups. I mean, I think they had 10 pass breakups in the whole game. They were around the ball all the time. I was really impressed with the secondary. Deshae Townsend, our second, our cornerback coach, it's got to be pretty happy with their performance.
Definitely. Agreed. That was the last player that I had was Hallett. He had 3 pass breakups. He also had a huge hit coming down. They still caught the ball. He had a big hit, had a couple tackles. Just really good performance from him. But you're right. I mean, the defensive back, the secondary as a whole. When I said last week, or I said in the, the episode leading up to this, and I said it last week too, because of the roster spots, because of the positions, I really want these defensive backs to step up. I want somebody, the roster spot's there. I want somebody to step up and take it. And honestly, it seems like all of these guys have been showing out. I mean, they're not separating themselves because they're all playing pretty well. Tyson Russell got beat for a touchdown, couple other catches. He's, probably on the outside. But then, Luke Barku, he had a decent game, and he hasn't been here very long. Alan George just got to the building how long ago? I mean, he got beat on a touchdown as well, but he had some decent pass breakups and some decent coverage also. So, it's not like everybody's getting cooked. Nobody's stepping up above anybody else because I think they're all playing at a high level.
Yeah, I'd say Hallett and Whiteside are the two that I thought were played the best out of that group. Whiteside, I mean, it depends on what happens with Dorsey to me. Like if he goes on the pup or if he comes back, that could open up a spot for Whiteside. But I thought he played pretty well. Let's get to the depressing part, the stock down. I'll go first. Broderick Martin, multiple penalties. He would get some pressure in there, but it's just lining up offsides drives me nuts. Like you don't need to do that. And it just gives offense a free 5 yards. He will make a couple splash plays here and there where I've watched him and he'll get some good pass rush, but then he makes stupid mistakes. And he just is a guy that can't afford to have mental mistakes like that and still make this roster.
Yeah, I think the only reason that you can say stock down for him is just because he had a decent game last time and the stock might have went up a little bit. Other than that, this is pretty much on par with what we've seen, every chance that we get. Kind of stupid mistakes, slow to get there. I mean, getting completely, for as big of a man as he is, to be able to get completely blocked out of these running plays and be able to get closed off and not be able to crash in, you can't just keep letting that happen. So then, yes, this has been par for the course for him. We're just seeing more of the same now.
Yeah, you got a stock down.
The only other one that I have stock down on, besides Hendon Hooker, but the stock down that I have was Lauren Strickland, and we already mentioned. I don't know if we're going to call him Kennelly now or how we're going to word this, but he got more snaps. I don't think either of them were necessarily impressive to me. I don't think that anybody stood out between those two, but they're giving him more snaps. Kennelly's, on special teams more. He's just out there more. He's getting more opportunity. Mm-hmm. So, that's not good for Strickland. And with your limited opportunity, when you're not making plays, it's not going to be good enough.
Yep, I agree. I don't really have another stock down, to be honest with you. Everybody else is kind of holding steady with me. Just in general, the holding penalties inside were disappointed. I think that they had a pretty tight whistle. I know Manu had one. The one with Kennedy that, Reynolds got like that 30-yard gain. From one angle, it didn't look like it, but when they replayed it, he stretched out the shoulder pad. Like, you got to have your hands inside. If you're holding inside, they probably won't call it. If you're holding up around the shoulder pad and you're stretching the jersey, it's blatantly obvious. I don't think Reynolds even needed that block necessarily to break. He was kind of already past the defender. So it's kind of disappointing, and just the number of just mental penalties in general, but they were really throwing the flag way too much. Some of that stuff was ticky-tack. Let's go with holding steady. Got any players in this category that are just kind of doing what they're doing?
I have one person here, and this is somebody that we have not really talked about extensively, so I just want to get your thoughts here. But Avonte Maddox has been out there. He's been playing. He's been in the preseason. He's been practicing. We have not heard his name very much as far as standing out or doing too many different things. He did have a nice play in this game where Shep sent him on a blitz, and he got unblocked. It was a really nice play call, to disrupt that play. So that was nice. But yeah, this is just somebody that I see out there a lot, but I don't see being very impactful. And it's not necessarily a good thing, not a bad thing. He's not giving up big plays or big catches or missing assignments, but he's also not exactly, coming in and making any plays that I can see. So what are your thoughts on Avonte Maddox?
I'm okay with it. This is kind of what I expected for him. I think it's a good thing that you're not noticing him, because that means he's probably not doing too many bad things, right? I mean, in his position on the field, his position on the team, he's probably not going to be on the field all that much outside of an injury. And if he comes in for an injury, I want him doing what he's doing, being in the right spot, making smart veteran plays. So I'm okay with that. You're right. He did have a nice play. I think he had a pass breakup, or not a pass breakup, but I think a pass knockdown at the line when he sent on a blitz or something. I'm remembering.
Oh, okay.
I'm okay with it. Is that disappointing to you? Are you expecting more play for him to make more plays, or you want a couple flash plays?
Well, yeah, like I said, for him to be out there as much as he has, I would like to have more of how he had, the blitz this time and you saw him in there. And I can't think of any other plays previous to that where I really saw him stick out, which could just be me not remembering or not thinking. But, like you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing that he's been out there and we haven't seen him very much, because that means you're doing your job. It's one of those things, if you're playing cornerback and they're not calling your name, it's probably because your guy's not open and you're not allowing any chance for them to even throw the ball that way. No, so I'm
Exactly.
fine with it. I just didn't know how you felt because this is also somebody, that is not on the roster bubble. This is somebody that there's firmly a position for on the team, yet he's still playing, in the preseason here and, not exactly standing out against these other, second, third team guys.
Yeah. All right. So my holding steady, this one's probably going to be some surprising and maybe disappointing for people is Isaac a Tesla. And the reason I'm saying holding steady, he's doing what we kind of, my expectations are so high that he's kind of just like, right. He's doing what I expected him to do, is shine in this moment. And I'll tell you, the two plays that I really, really liked was obviously the touchdown. If you watch that, his body position on the touchdown catch is the most important thing. He uses his big body, shields it, goes so the defender would have to come through him, and that would be either pass interference. And then he goes out and catches it with his hands. And that's when we say catch it with your hands, it's so important because he's going to go out with his long arms, and the defender, if he's behind him, can't do anything, can't get dislodge that ball. So I really like that. And I don't know if you noticed or not, I did put the video on our Twitter channel that on the fourth down, on that last 2-minute drive of the half, they had a fourth down, a 4th and 3, and Tesla got the catch. And I don't know if you noticed, but he got jammed at the line on that and fought through the jam and then got the first down. So number one, that he got open on that play. I think the play was designed to go to him. Number two, that coming out of college, we were worried about him fighting through jams. That was a question mark for him. And even when I saw him in practice, there were times that he was getting jammed at the line that he couldn't fight through. Well, he fought through this one and ended up getting, first down on a big fourth down play. So that was huge to me.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, improving, showing all the things that he's, supposed to be doing. I know that route on his touchdown, the stutter step didn't fool anybody.
No,
but he didn't have to. He was in position and, perfect catch there.
If you watch that, he uses that stutter step a lot. He was using it in college. It's not going to work in the NFL because it just slows him down. So I'm hoping that they work on something with that he can use more of his. He's got that large frame. He's got to use more head fakes or something because that stutter step, it just isn't going to cut it. Top and cornerbacks like CB3s and 4s they're not going to fall for that. But he's such big frame and he's got speed and stuff that maybe he needs to just lean into that. And he did that on the touchdown, and it was a great pass too.
Right. No, so I guess I agree with that. Holding, what'd you say? Holding neutral, holding steady.
Holding steady is what I got named this
Holding
category.
steady, yeah.
So, and that's just based
holding
on my
steady towards the
expectations.
top.
Yes, he's doing what I expect him to do. So, everybody can't be stuck up. I don't want to get ahead of myself with him because he's still facing backups, right? It's not like he's facing top flight, CB1, CB2. But then I remind myself, if he plays in the game, he's also not going to be facing CB1 and CB2, most likely. And if he is, that means Amon-Ra and J-Mo are facing someone less, and they're going to burn them. So that's going to help out the team in general. So I'm okay with him, showing this out. He's better than the competition. He's being very consistent, holding steady. But the part of it is my expectations have been raised just because of the way he's played the first 2 preseason games.
Yeah, he's warranted a longer look and possibly some targets or at least some action, as a receiver during the actual regular season.
Yeah, one thing that, in the training camp, he isn't repping at all with the one, so it's not like Jared Goff's throwing to him a lot, and that's gonna that I'm seeing if that's gonna change this week versus the Texans. I'll be curious when they do practice if he gets any reps with the ones during that, just to see, him and Jared Goff can build some chemistry because they're gonna have to if Tesla's gonna get in the game, regular season time.
Right.
All right, you got anybody else in holding steady?
I do
got a
not.
couple more. All right. Craig
Let's hear it.
Reynolds is up. Craig Reynolds is on my list. I'll be honest with you. I've been pretty impressed with him this whole preseason. He's been able to get some pretty decent runs, and he's going behind, the second and third team offensive line. I'm really surprised that they're putting him on the field as much as they are. I don't know what the reasoning behind that is, other than it's going to help Kyle Allen or Hendon Hooker, whoever's in at quarterback for that beginning part, to sustain drives and then they get a longer look at him. That's what I feel is probably happening. They know they could trust Craig to get positive yardage and not fall behind. But I still am kind of curious. But I've been pretty impressed with Craig this. And I know before the training camp started, I was wondering if Baki could overtake him. I don't know if Craig heard footsteps or if he just wants to play, but he's playing phenomenal, I think, in his role.
Yeah, it is interesting how much work he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Jacob Saylor's played pretty well, in the limited action, limited time he's been here. I think he led the team in carries, but yeah, no, Craig's doing Craig things as expected.
Yes.
So I don't know exactly, I guess I wasn't thinking of him when you talk about stock up, stock down or whatever, just because Craig is Craig. And yes, he has been doing a good job, but I don't think that there's no roster trouble for Craig. And in my opinion, there was not a risk of him falling down the depth chart to Vaki either.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, RB3 and 4 both have the same kind of role. They're going to be special teamers, and then they're going to come in a pinch. So, I mean, ultimately, they're both going to make the roster. So that was not a question either. And didn't matter if they're RB3 or RB4, frankly. I'll tell you 2 more guys I got on here that I think are in this hold and steady category. Nate Lynn, who I think has had a pretty good preseason. Didn't do anything like crazy outstanding in this game, but I think he's doing enough to really warrant, a possible roster position. Definitely practice squad. They're going to want to keep him if they can. And then Grant Stewart is just a guy that just shows up all the time. He tends, for me, to sometimes over pursue a play. You'll catch him sometimes where he's over pursued and gets out of position, but you could always count on him to give it his all, and that hair makes it like so obvious because it's like bouncing, and like I said on Twitter, it's like a Superman cape for him. You just I just know who it is. I don't even have to look at the number. I'm like, oh, that's Grant Stewart. Looks good.
Right. Yeah, definitely. He was trailing, let up a couple passes, but I mean, he's just full steam all over the field. Pretty sure tackler for the most part. I think he did miss one on the screen pass, but I mean, he forced a fumble. He also, on kick return, when they let him return kicks, he picks the ball up. He's not necessarily, doesn't look like he's juking or anything. He's probably making eye contact with somebody, and he's like, I'm running right through you.
That's the way I feel about it, man. He just is like, I am just running it. And I noticed that he was putting 2 hands on the ball when he started to get into traffic. So I think, they've got 2 of the ball security. I think we'd be amiss if we didn't talk about a little bit about Hendon and this podcast a little bit. So what are your overall thoughts on Hendon? I know he could have went and stock down. I know he could have went and holding steady because he's kind of doing what I expect from him. But just in general, what's your thoughts of Hendon performance in this game and just overall standing with the team?
Even further down than he was last week. When Kyle Allen plays well and Hendon does not, the gap gets bigger. And then, he just needed to have a better game. He needed to have some scoring drives. He had a running touchdown that was called back due to hold. I mean, he's just not seeing the ball downfield. His pocket presence doesn't seem to be there. He had that one where he ran. I think there's a flag on this one too, but he was trying to run for the first down. He got absolutely smoked again. Yeah. Like, he's just not learning his lesson from the little things before. I know he's trying to make something out of nothing, but it's just not working. Something's not working. And had we not used a 3rd round pick on Hendon Hooker, I don't think that he makes the team this year. But I feel like because of the draft capital and everything that we are going to be keeping 3 quarterbacks. I don't, if he has another game like this or looks even, I assume he's going to get the brunt of the work next week, right? If he has another game like this or looks even worse, do we consider not keeping him, or do you think it's pretty much set in stone after this that we're keeping 3 quarterbacks?
I'm not saying that we won't keep the 3 quarterbacks, but if he looks like this, it's like I don't know what the point of holding on to him is, because I don't trust him at any point. It's not going to be good if either Kyle Allen or Hendon Hooker were to get into a game, but I would trust Kyle. I would trust Kyle to be able to make some plays and just be able to, he'd at least be able to hand off and have a little poise and hand off to Jameer and David and do those things.
And those limited game action for Hendon last year when we were smoking, was it Tennessee?
Titan,
yeah,
right. The Jaguars, I think.
He actually didn't look terrible in those when the game was already out of hand.
Yeah.
But, and I'm trying to think last year, too. I don't remember him. I don't think he's ever been overly impressive in the preseason when we get him in action. But I don't think he's looked as bad as he has this year. And I don't know if that's just our expectations were that he was going to look better or if he really is just not playing as well.
I don't know. Well, I think part of it is what you said before. Kyle Allen's looked pretty good the last 2 games. He was going against Nate Sudfeld the last couple, and Nate's always he's looked worse than Kyle. And I will say the best that Hendon looked in that game was right before he threw that interception, and that was on the 2-minute drive. And I feel like that urgency, he probably had one read and the ball was he was going to get rid of the ball, and that's what he was used to at Tennessee, like one read and out, and he started to look good. And so, like, I'm wondering if they put him in a setting like that where the pace was higher, if he would look more comfortable. But it's when he starts getting to his, later reads, that's when he starts to panic. It feels like he gets to the second or third read and he's like, it's not there. I need to run. And then all of a sudden he's taking the eyes off the field, downfield, and then he's running. And even when he runs, I know he got that touchdown on that hold. That was probably would have been his most successful run. But the one that you mentioned earlier, he runs to the outside, tries to get that first down and just gets stonewalled. So even when he runs, it's not overly effective. So it's just kind of the same with him. And even like you said, last year's preseason, that was his first preseason that he played in. He had some excuses, right? He hadn't played ball in over a year. So you're like, okay, well, I give him some excuses. And then, the first game he goes out, he runs and gets a concussion in that first game. Then luckily he comes back the next week. Doesn't play too bad against Kansas City, I believe he played in that game, but nothing major, which is a shame because when we see him in practice, when he was playing better, he's got a really good arm. He's probably got the strongest arm on the team. He's probably stronger than Jared Goff as far as like actual arm strength, but it's all the other things that Jared Goff presents, the smarts, the experience, all that. So obviously he's just light years ahead of Hendon, but it's just too bad that Hendon can't grow because having a little bit of escapability and then a really good arm could be a good combination, but it seems all mental with him that either he can't, do an NFL offense and he was stuck, like he was really successful at Tennessee with the one read and, you're reading half the field and getting out. All those things that we were kind of worried about when he came out are kind of showing to me, and that's why he really did well in that 2-minute drive. He had one read and got the ball out, and he was actually doing pretty good. And that interception,
It's not his fault.
Yeah, I mean, now if you look, like I think Horton was out, the tight end was out, and there was a right read. That was an awesome athletic play, and the fact that he even caught the ball. I mean, it was an amazing play. That ball was pretty high. To jump that high and just knock it down would have been crazy, but he held on to the ball. I don't put that too much on Hendon. That was just a great defensive play.
Yeah, no, I don't either. And I really think you hit it right on that, that 2-minute drive went so well just because he had that one read.
Mm-hmm.
They had those intermediate routes. They're crashing down, 6-7 yards away, and he's finding his target because his target's the first guy right there. And, they're running similar routes on each side of the field. So if that one's not open, you've got one more and then you're running. Yeah. So, I mean, that was working well, for him. But just, to give you his stats for the preseason last year, the game against the Chiefs, Hendon Hooker was 12 for 15, 150 yards. No touchdowns through the air, but he did rush for a touchdown. And that was a reason that you were thinking, okay, this guy, could be the backup. We, see some positive things. The following week against Pittsburgh, 12 for 20, 114 yards, one touchdown, one interception as well. But he ran for 93 yards in that game. So, I mean, he showed flashes. He was way more promising last preseason than he's been this year. So, I mean, because of what we've seen in the past and because of the draft capital and everything, is that enough reason to keep him, hold him on, and hope that one more year? That's the thing too, is because the end result here is not that we're grooming Hendon Hooker to become the starter in a few years. Like that's not really what we're doing here. We're hoping that he is a reliable backup, and that if we need him to come in, if something happens to Goff and we need him to come in, we can trust him to lead the offense, put some points on the board, and take care of the ball. And if you're going off of what we've seen so far in practice and preseason this year, he absolutely cannot be trusted to do that.
Yeah, the thing is that like we all bagged on both of them after the Hall of Fame game, both Kyle Allen and Hendon Hooker, and then both games since, Hendon's been about the same, to be honest with you. Like there's been as far as performance looked, he might have looked a little bit better in the Hall of Fame game, but he's still looking around the same. Whereas Kyle Allen has played better, each week, or he's certainly the second preseason game was light years better than the first one, and then this one was on par with that game, I would say. Hendon's just not going the other way. And the thing is that the beat writers are saying that's the way in practice too, that Hendon's practice performance hasn't been great. So it was seemed like a lot of it's mental. And obviously with quarterback, you want to have strong mental fortitude because, you're got to run that team and you got to get your team ready to play. And so I don't know. I mean, I am not saying that he shouldn't be on the team, but I'm really questioning it. And I'm surprised I was here because I was just confident that he was going to come out and have better games and especially the first preseason game, he was the second quarterback against the Hall of Fame. Second one, he's going to be playing with Tesla. Lovett didn't play, but Meeks was out there, so you're thinking, okay, he's going to play better. Didn't happen. And then last week, he's playing in the second half, so again, he's playing with people further down the depth chart. But it's just not happening for him. It's a shame. But you had better stats last preseason than what you just mentioned. But I'd say our wide receivers are much better this year than further down the depth chart are much better this year than they were last year.
That's true. I don't have the stats in front of me for them, but yeah, I mean, just talking about, I don't know if we want to go recency bias or whatever, but how much last year did we were begging somebody to show out, somebody get up there, let's see what we have. Just seemed like nobody was separating themselves.
It was
now this year we've got so many.
It.
Well, right now we've got so many people that they're going to be a tough decision. Do we keep 7 receivers on the roster? Do we take our chances and hope whoever we cut makes it to the practice squad?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So, all right, man. Anything else before we take off here?
No, man, I'm good.
All right, we're going to be back on Thursday live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We're going to talk the practice. Joint practice is Thursday with Texans and the Lions. So we're kind of waiting until Thursday so we could get through that because there'll probably be a lot of stuff to talk about. I am waiting for that practice because we saw what we did in first Miami. Have you seen, this is a side, have you seen Miami's Twitter that they're raising the banner because they beat us in this preseason game? It's they're taking victory laps and they're going after people were going after Colton Pouncey because for whatever reason they picked him as the beat writer that they want to attack. There's because Colton had said we just demolished them on Wednesday in the joint practice, and now everyone's like, oh, we beat you. So they were all basically saying that we were one-sided, or Colton Pouncey was one-sided, and Colton's your own beat writers were saying that you got demolished. And who cares if you won this preseason game? We won the first half, which is our second stringers. We lost the third half when Hendon come in. If Kyle Allen would have played the whole game, we probably would have won that game.
Right. And it's not anybody who was doing the joint practice. These are not our ones anyway. So
exactly.
It's just Twitter trolls, I think.
Exactly. So we'll be gone on Thursday. Hopefully a good result. Like I said, this joint practice will tell us a little bit more about the team. Texans defense is better. So yes. I'm really curious how our offense is going to look. And there's hopefully I haven't keep track of Texans injury status. So, but I'm hoping Nico is out there, and I don't know is Mixon hurt. I don't know if Mixon's out, but
they said he was hurt, but I don't know what. I mean,
yeah,
I would assume if he's banged up at all, they probably just hold him out for all of the training camp.
Yeah. And now it'll be interesting, and we know the Texans offensive line was not good last year. It's probably going to be worse this year. They got rid of Tunsil, right? Tunsil went to the Commanders. That was their best offensive lineman. So, that's what you think. You're hey, our offensive line's bad. You know what we should do? We should get rid of our best offensive lineman.
Yeah.
That's thinking outside the box, Jacob. But so
let's blow it up and let's start by getting rid of the guy that's the best.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was contract and stuff on there, but yeah, it's just not going to make CJ Stroud happy, but it'll make Hutch happy. It's going to make Davenport happy on the other side. We probably get some sacks. I'll be interested to see how our defense shows up. Hopefully Kirby's back this week. He didn't play at all last week. Hopefully TA's back fully. I know he
Right.
was out there practicing. I want to see our full back end. I want to see, Branch, Kirby, TA, and DJ Reed all out there. And hopefully
Yes.
Nico plays, because I really wish Tyreek was out there and Waddle last week just to see,
Right,
to get a good read on that. They probably would have been a little more successful, I would imagine, but it'd been nice to have them out there. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. We'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure. Leads up to the last preseason game. And then, football's going to start, man.
It's almost time.
It is. It's getting here. All right, man. For Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go, Lions.